Mulder had reached into his jacket. "It's me," he announced. Rose looked as baffled as the doctor. "How can you get a signal way out here?" Only a Time Lord or Time Agent could make those adjustments. Suddenly the doctor had an unnerving feeling the master was going to be at the end. But that was plain ridiculous, as how could he have an FBI agent's phone number from the year 2009? For that matter, how would he know Mulder was on the TARDIS? Mulder answered with a curious "hello." There was a pause, a raised eyebrow, and then he handed his phone over to the doctor. "It's for you." "What?" Doctor, is that you?" He recognised the voice immediately. "Captain Jack Harkness. But how do you know—" Jack interrupted him. "I'm in Washington, D.C. with Mulder's FBI partner, Dana Scully. I just adjusted her phone so we could talk." "What's going on?" Rose asked. "Jack is phoning us from present-day USA. He glanced over at Mulder. "He's with your partner." Mulder's attention increased slightly. "Just what is he doing with Scully?" "You probably don't want to know the answer to that," the doctor teased. "Hey, I resent that," Jack exclaimed. "I'm not that insatiable." "You could have fooled me." "Look, just tell me why this friend of yours is with Scully," Mulder asked, getting impatient. "Don't worry," Rose said. "He doesn't chat up every woman he meets. It's usually every man as well." "Thanks, Rose, that's really comforting to know," he replied curtly. Both stared at the doctor, who was now listening intently, his face growing darker with every minute that passed. "Thank you, Jack. We'll see you soon." "Doctor, what is it?" Rose asked, concerned. He looked at each companion in turn and proceeded to explain what he'd just heard. "Jack had a dream about Dana." Before Mulder could cut in, he quickly added, "It led to him teleporting over to her so he could use her phone to call me. Torchwood has been monitoring the rift, and it has increased in its intensity." "It's just what I suspected." "Which is what?" Rose asked nervously. "Well, when we three stepped into the void, it fed off our energy. That's why we were caught in these time shifts, which made anything possible." "A dream is the answer to a question we haven't yet figured out how to ask," Mulder said quietly. "You could very well be right there," the doctor replied. "It's what I used to tell Scully." He pondered on what he just said and added, "I was thinking about her, then the phone rang." "And now you're going to get reunited," the doctor stated. "Jack can't teleport to us because we are not in any fixed abode. We can't land in Cardiff as the rift is too powerful, and the TARDIS will end up being a conduit, which will probably result in the rift opening completely." He glanced across at Rose. "Yeah, I remember it helped open it in the first place," she replied. "Right, so our next best option is to go to the good old US of A. I hate to say this, but an old-fashioned blue police box from England is going to stick out like a sore thumb there," Mulder added. "Right, so we're going to your partner's place. Jack's given me the coordinates." The doctor proceeded to run round the console, hitting various controls. "Hold tight! Allons-y! We're landing where?" Mulder asked, surprised. In Georgetown, Washington, D.C., Captain Jack Harkness handed the phone back to Scully. "They're on their way." "The blue box is landing here, in my apartment? Just how big is this spaceship?" Noticing her face was showing complete astonishment, he grinned widely. "Don't worry, on the outside it looks like it'd hold about 2 people. However, on the inside, that's a different story." "What do you mean by that?" "You'll see," he told her with a smile. "Oh, you'll see." "I'll see what?" she questioned. As Scully spoke those words, she thought she could hear a faint whooshing noise, like engines of some kind, and it was getting louder and louder. The air started to shimmer before her eyes, and at first it reminded her of the force field that had surrounded the UFO which had abducted her partner several years ago. She'd looked out across the Arizona desert and noticed a displacement of light, like a shimmering curtain, which she believed at that time was the heat causing a rippling effect. Well, she wasn't in a desert now. She was in her living room. "Here it comes!" Jack yelled. A gust of wind suddenly whipped up from nowhere, blowing the hair in all directions, then sent a pile of papers Scully had stacked on her dining table flying everywhere. The TARDIS materialised, and she gasped in amazement. "Holy fuck!" The door swung open before she could finish, and a tall man in a long coat stepped out. "Hello, I'm the doctor. You must be Dana Scully." She stared in wide-eyed amazement. Yes, that's me." "Pleased to meet you," he said, shaking her hand firmly. Then he noticed his old friend who had travelled with him on several occasions. The ex-time agent and retired con man who he knew was going to live for many, many years and would eventually evolve into a wise creature known as the Face of Bo. Not that the man in front of him had any idea that was his destiny. Well, not yet. "Jack!" he cried. "Doctor!" he replied, gathering the Time Lord into a bear hug. Scully waited until the two men had exchanged greetings, then spoke up. "Where's Mulder?" "He's inside," the doctor started to say, but before he could add anything else, she'd rushed past him and disappeared into the TARDIS. He looked at Jack. "Did you explain to her about Time Lord science?" "Not exactly." Mulder drummed his fingers on the console for the umpteenth time. "When can we step outside?" he asked Rose impatiently. "When we know it's safe." "I'm sure Scully's apartment is as safe as houses." He grinned, realising the pun he'd just come out with. Then he frowned as he remembered previous cases that had resulted in quite a number of deaths in and out of her place. "Or maybe not." "Not?" "Long story. It involves psychos, mutants, and folks being shot." "Sounds like a really cosy place to live," Rose said, rolling her eyes at him. "You have no idea," he snorted. A moment later the door flew open and a familiar redhead breezed in. "Scully!" he cried, startled, running towards her. "Mulder!" she yelled, then stopped short when she realised her surroundings. "Oh my God!" she exclaimed. The interior was metallic, organic, and above all, massive. "It's bigger on the inside. Time Lord science," Mulder announced as he threw his arms around her. "Yeah, I can see that," Scully replied, returning the hug. Then she continued to scan the area. "Wow, it's incredible." "You can say that again." The young blonde girl walked over to her and introduced herself. "Hi, I'm Rose Tyler, and this is the TARDIS," she announced proudly. "Hello, Rose," Scully said, shaking her hand. Then she faced her partner. "So you've been travelling in this TARDIS through time and space?" she asked, still reeling from her discovery. "And then some," Mulder replied. Before she could question him, the door opened and the two men entered. Jack immediately spied Rose and ran over to hug her. "Boy, I'm glad he was able to find you again," he beamed, referring to the doctor. "It's great to see you, Rose." "You too," she replied, squeezing him tightly. "Oh, I've missed this," he said cheekily, then kissed her on the lips. "You never change," she laughed. He felt someone tap him lightly on his shoulder. "Still the same old Jack." "Absolutely," he replied, turning to face the doctor before kissing him in the same fashion. Then he noticed the tall, dark-haired, attractive man beside Scully. "And you must be Fox Mulder," he stated, striding over to him. "Yes, I am," Mulder replied a little uneasily. "And you really don't have to greet me the same way." "You sure?" Jack asked, giving him the once-over. "Yeah, he's a little shy," Scully smirked, immediately receiving a hard stare from her partner. The doctor stepped in. "Jack, there's a time and a place, and believe me, Mulder is definitely not your type." "But everyone is Jack's type," Rose piped up. "Don't worry," Scully said, taking hold of Mulder's hand. "I'll protect you." Rose couldn't hold it any longer and burst into giggles, which had Scully following soon after. Jack offered his hand to the FBI agent. "Hi, I'm Captain Jack Harkness." "Special Agent Fox Mulder," he replied, returning the handshake somewhat reluctantly. "My, you have a strong grip there, Fox," Jack replied with a wink. "Mulder," he replied, forcing a smile. "Yeah, never call him Fox, or he's likely to pick up a gun and shoot you," Scully warned Jack, and dissolved into giggles once again. During the exchanges, the doctor had watched his friends, old and new, pleased that they were enjoying this moment of frivolity. But he knew from here on out things were going to get very dicey indeed, and now he needed their full attention. "Everyone, let's get down to business. We have a void to seal and a rift to close before the world ends."